It's 9 o'clock. Welcome, everybody. As people start to trickle in, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the inaugural edition of our new fall educational series, Fireside Chats. And NISOA is proud to bring you this unique learning experience with an intimate setting and bringing you some of the greatest officiating minds on the courts, the arenas, and the pitches. We encourage you to sit back, like Ted, light up your own fireplace or candle, grab a warm beverage and a Snuggie, and enjoy the officiating dialogue. In the virtual room today, you have over 13 College Cups officiated. That's a wealth of collegiate knowledge. If you aren't taking something away from today's session, that's on you. If you have NISOAN friends and family that weren't able to join us today, they'll be able to view this session on our YouTube channel in the coming days. So look for that. That may not be the case for all Fireside Chats, as high-profile guests may be limited on their public distribution of content. So we highly encourage you guys to join us on Monday nights live, because we might not always be able to provide the content on YouTube thereafter. So let's do a quick roll call. If you guys are in, check out the chat. If you guys can put in your first name, your last name, your chapter, and where you're from, and say hello to your fellow NISOA family. Hi, everybody. I see names starting to roll in. Hey, Jamil. Hey, Adriana. Miguel. What's up, guys? Welcome, 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 welcome. And so a couple things, if you're not familiar with webinars on Zoom, there's a Q&A. If you look straight down, you can click on that Q&A, and you can ask any questions you want to Ted and or Chris. Anything from what's in your cup, to what's your favorite movie, to what's your hardest, toughest match you've ever officiated, what's the best thing you've ever taken away, whatever questions you want, you can put in the Q&A, and I'll be filtering that to the team to be able to review them when Q&A is open. If you just want to chat with other members, you can use the chat feature. So chat is for chat, Q&A is for actual questions. So if you guys can make sure that stays that way, that would be fabulous. And then, of course, we want to thank the Foundation Fund. This educational experience wouldn't be available for you all if it wasn't for the NISOA Foundation Fund support. So thank you, NISOA Foundation Fund. Thank you for continuing to provide NISOA members with the best of education for the collegiate game. So for those of you that are like, what is Fireside Chats? It's a 7-week series with a variety of topics, guests, and clips. Fireside Chats will bring you some of the greatest officiating minds from across sports, discussing topics that aren't typically discussed in the classroom. Well, we typically talk a lot about red cards and yellow card challenges, offside, positioning, and other tactical elements of the game. However, we don't often discuss some of the soft touch elements of officiating. So tonight's topic is officiating under pressure. Some other topics you might see are the mental and physical readiness of the game. How do you balance family and life and a job, and some of the other aspects of the game that we don't typically talk about. And that's what Fireside Chats is supposed to bring you. So if you enjoyed today's session, which I hope you do, or if you have any constructive feedback, we want to hear it. So there'll be a post-event survey after the event today. About 24 hours after, you'll get an email. If you could fill that out, that'll help us directionally know if this is content you love, if you really enjoy it, or anything you'd like to see different, because this is really to serve you guys. So without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Fireside himself, Chris Penso. So if you don't know Chris, he is a former FIFA referee. He's been a professional MLS referee since 2009. He's a 6-time College Cup official. Yes, both on the line, and he's held the whistle, bringing back some good memories. He's also an assigner in the college game. So he assigns for the AAC, which is a Division I conference, as well as the Sun Conference, which is an NAIA conference here in the South. So he brings a unique perspective to the conversation. He understands what assigners are looking for, and he also understands the challenges of balancing a heavy fall schedule, which might be unique this fall. We hope tonight's session is everything you want. We hope you take a little bit away from today. Tune in every Monday and join us. And hopefully you can implement some of this into your games this fall if you're lucky enough to have a schedule. And if not, carry these learnings on into the spring with you. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Chris.
Perfect. Thank you, Tori. Welcome, everybody, to Fireside Chats. We're kicking off tonight, Monday, October 5th. We're going to run for 7 weeks. And like Tori said, we're working to secure some very high-profile guests across all sports, both professionally and collegiately. And this is so entertaining that Ted's already leaving.
I had on mute.
Oh, well, we'd like to hear from you tonight, Ted.
Yes.
So, tonight's special guest, a longtime friend of mine, Mr. Theodore Unkel. Only very few people can call him Theodore, and I'm going to.
That's true.
MLS referee since 2012, a FIFA referee since the start of 2016. Refereed his 100th MLS regular season game just this past August, and I was fortunate enough to be his VAR with him in Atlanta. And many of you most likely know him for his celebrity penalty kick mechanics. They are legendary, and probably only second only to the Chris Penso power squat, put your knee on the ground. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Ted Unkel.
Hey, Chris, we've just seen each other like 6 hours ago, 12 hours ago, something like that in Dallas. But in all seriousness, I can't thank you enough for you got 7 weeks of this. You could have chosen anybody, and I know we go way back. But to see what you and what Tori and Lance and Mark and what you guys have done within the NISOA and the college ranks is so impressive, because this is the stuff that we talked about back in the day. How do we get people that are involved now to be able to be the one that are influencing, either through education or assignment or assessment or mentoring, whatever the case may be, right? We've done it at Southern Regionals, and now you get to do it in college games. So I'm thrilled that you're an assigner now. I know your guest list coming up over the next 6 weeks, or your tentative guest list, and it's some awesome guys, man. Guys and gals. It's awesome guys and gals.
Guys and gals, that's right. And just a side note on that, Ted's right. We do have some amazing people in the works for the next few weeks. What we'll do typically is we'll announce the guest. We announced Ted late last week. We'll be announcing the guests either on the show tonight. Tonight we won't be. We'll be announcing next week's guest later this week. Hopefully we'll have that secured by Thursday or Friday before the weekend, and everybody will have time to submit their questions to the NISOA Communications email address. I can't stress that enough. Send as many questions in advance. Obviously, they're easier for us to filter through when you give us a little bit of lead time. We'll do our best tonight to handle as many questions as we can that come through the Q&A. Tori and her staff will help us, will help feed those to us. Because if anybody knows Ted and I, we may very well go off on a bit of a tangent with our banter. So,
Never have. We never,
right? So, Ted, let's get started. Let's dive right into it. When did you begin refereeing, and what made you do it?
Yeah, so the story may be out there a little bit, and it's, I think everybody's is unique, as we all know. I was listening to Christina the other day. She's doing some broadcasting now for CBS for Champions League, and Michael Oliver had a match, and his story was her story, right? So kind of nice to have that. But for me, I was about 12, and like my dad had coached me playing wise. I wasn't impressive by any means, but he starts refereeing, and I was never a clean up the house kind of guy, get a little bit of money. So he says, hey, let's go do this together. And I joined him and spent some more time on weekends, and he ended up giving me his game fee. So all of a sudden I'm walking away from these games with cash, and now double the cash. And there's not a better part-time job than that. So yeah, I mean, he was definitely the influence, this will be lighter, I promise, but kind of the sad part is that, he never did come to a professional match I refereed. Yeah. Never did come. And the year that I got my badge in 2016, he had passed away that January. So I was able to bring my badge when he was getting treatment, and he saw it and felt it. And for me, that was a big moment because of the way I started.
Sure. A lot of that might be why we're such good friends. I think our stories are pretty similar. Obviously, I can't hold a candle. I still have my father, fortunately, and I can't fathom what that loss is like, especially right before you get the badge, right.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah.
But I'm in the same boat. I started when I was 14, and for the same reasons, I wanted some extra cash. I wasn't a fan of working around the house. My youth coach at the time knew I wasn't a good player, so he said, hey, you should probably referee, because you're not going to be able to do this. You're not very good, right? Obviously, he didn't say that, but I knew.
Sure.
When I went to an entry-level course, it was over a weekend in 1997, and and got the badge and went out, and the way we all do it starting out, right? You go to a tournament, you do 6 games a day, and your legs fall off, and you work your way up. But Yeah, and I can relate it a little bit. My dad works at a pizza shop, right? Everybody knows Penzo's Pizza.
Of course.
My dad works nights and weekends. So in my 20 plus year career, my dad's been to one game in person.
Wow, I did not know that. I didn't know that.
One game, and it was a game down in Columbus. It was an MLS game in Columbus.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I get it, right? Like you gotta support the family. So work always came first. But he was always supportive. I worked at the pizza shop, and he gave me liberty to take off whatever night I needed to referee whatever game I wanted to. And I owe a lot of that. I owe a lot of my success to him for giving me that flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my dad owned a business, and I was able to work there, right? When I was either refereeing or playing, my background's baseball, playing things, to go to tournaments and such. But a question back to you, retrospectively, like how bad were you that at 14 somebody shut you down?
I mean, he let me stay on the team. I just didn't play a whole lot. And then and then I went to high school, and I apparently didn't catch the drift. So I played in high school, and I was on JV until my junior year. And even in my junior year, I was still back and forth from JV to varsity. Yeah. And finally, at the end of my junior year, between the end of my junior year and my start of my senior year, I actually got into it with my coach. And I quit. I'm gonna go focus all my efforts on refereeing. He and I laugh about it now because he's one of my strongest followers. He follows my schedule. He's always reaching out and asking when I have games. He posts things on Facebook all the time back home in my local, the local soccer club. Chris has got a game on Fox, or Chris has got a game on one, or Chris is doing this, and we joke about it now. Because he's like, you couldn't run 4 laps in 10 minutes when you were 16. Yeah, like, your fitness is your life, and he's right. He's right.
Yeah, but it does go to show you though, like you never know like what bonds you're making or what connections you're making, and it's amazing like what we do and getting a random note or random text from a number you don't know or you don't originally know. It's not in your contacts. You say, hey, I saw you on TV last night. Awesome, whatever it may be. Yeah. And like you haven't seen these people for 15 or 20 years, or maybe it was just a passing hello or whatever it is. It really proves a lot, not only in soccer, but, in life and humanity and friendship and all that.
Yeah. And, my dad, I get a kick out of it now because people come in the pizza shop and, it's my dad jokes. He's like, people don't realize I had 3 other children. I have a brother and 2 sisters, and people come in the shop. I saw Chris on TV. And they'll do it in front of my brother who's at the shop. Yeah. Like, I exist. But people see me on TV and relate, and they pop in and they ask me how I'm doing and how Toria and the girls and I are. Of course. It's pretty awesome how the world works.
Certainly, definitely is.
What were some key moments along the way? From you starting out to getting into, obviously you started refereeing in the women's professional league prior to getting into MLS, and then obviously you worked your way up into the FIFA badge, and you've had that for 5 years now. So what were some of the key moments along the way?
It's and you can relate to this. This. I've got IMG 30 minutes up the road.
So when I'm not mornings.
What's that?
I said we spent many mornings, 9:30 a.m. games there.
9:30, and you mentioned that, and that was the key, Chris. I mean, based out of geographic proximity and being available, all of a sudden we, without the credentials to do them per se, are doing international friendlies on a Tuesday morning or on a Thursday morning, or how many under 17 national team games did we do over there? Or back when Nike friendlies was the ticket into the league, and just because you're around, you get to be part of that, right? You're not being flown in, you're not a national referee, you're just coming up, and you're running some lines for some guys. And I tell you, the environment there was amazing. We joke, the ongoing joke between you and me is like, and we said it Saturday night in Dallas, like, hey, you got a game at Puryear Park next week. But amateur ball is so important. How do you manage? I mean, that's what this is about at the professional level. Like, how do you manage? How do you manage a situation? How do you manage an incident? How do you manage the people that are involved there? And you get all of that from the amateur game. And that's why I don't think it's that surprising that a lot of the professional guys come from the states that have the best amateur ball. So there's that. Right? Yeah, of course. And it's crazy too. Like coming up, especially in the state of Florida, like nobody ever wanted Greg Watson to be your assessor. You didn't, because he was going to be the toughest. You might fail your assessment. And, you know, and when you're young, that's how you look at it. And then you realize as you go, right, the Greg Watsons, the Barry Tobin's influence in my life, Eric Simmons, these guys, and like, that's who you want. These are the guys that'll put you to the fire to make you answer for the decision that you made. And that only makes you a better referee. So those people have been awesome. And then, like you said, like I said, I got started in WPS, and the best thing about the WPS is that it gave you that professional match day experience. And all of a sudden, you're refereeing at a first division. You're flying into a city. You're doing the game day routine where you learn what time you like to eat, what time you need to leave. Do you want to rest? Do you nap? Do you not nap? Like everything that goes into that. And it's a real eye opener. And that was such an awesome experience. You know, Ricardo Salazar, right? That name everybody knows in the referee community. That guy, he started in WUSA. And it's funny because you look at him, you're like, no way, no chance. But it's awesome. And now, you know, there's still a little bit of me that really has a lot of pride to see like the NWSL doing well, because I think there's opportunities there for referees to learn and get better and so on, you know, along with the USL championships and everything else that we know in the process.
Yeah. A couple of questions popped up in chat. First,
Yeah.
Can you share with people what IMG is?
Oh, well, IMG is where your parents spend $80,000 a year and send you to be a student for 7 months to be specialized in some type of sport, be it tennis, soccer, football, or whatever. But the one good thing about it, and it's turned into this amazing Disney-like campus, is that it hosts the biggest events. Right now, it hosts the NBA Big Man Camp. It hosts the WNBA Bubble. It hosts the Madden Camp. Christina was doing Christina, my wife, not just to clarify, Christina was doing her NBA internship over there, and that's when Cam Newton was on campus. Now the guy's quarterback of the Patriots. They have their own teams. They're usually not good because you got to pay to get there. But the people that have come in, I mean, you've been there. It's when like on what is it, over Christmas, like Tottenham plays whoever, you're not going to find that anywhere, but you find it here. And it's awesome. What's the other question that came up?
Who was your first mentor?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's okay if the answer is Christina.
No, it's and I laugh not only because, listen, her storied career is well documented, but it also, our first game that we ever worked together professionally, she was an AR for me in Boston on a WPS game. The very first throw-in she gets wrong, and I'm like, get this referee out of here. Get her out of here. Like, I don't need this. You know, that's a tough one because, like I said, for as within the Florida, it's Watson, but I avoided him for so long that we really wasn't a mentor. I think when I started getting on a path, it was Simmons, and we would talk, and it was awesome because we can just relate. You and I could talk like this. You know how I talk on the field. No code words, no emotion. Like, it's just, let's have a conversation. Let's not make acronyms up like SIAPOA, for example. You know, we just use words that we would use. And I think that goes into the common sense of refereeing. And we could really, Eric and I could really relate on that. And not only in the best of times, right? You have the frustrating times. Like, hey, why aren't I getting a shot yet? Why aren't I, you know, and it's not to say that he has the answers or your mentor has all the answers, but man, to have a sounding board, like, you need a sounding board. You need to be able to have somebody you can call up, and it's really awesome now. Like, we have each other, right? Hey, Chris, did you see that play on the weekend? Or what do you think about my decision in this match or whatever? And I think if you don't have that trusted group or trusted person, I don't think you get to be as successful as you're ever going to be. I think you need those people, and I certainly lean on my group pretty frequently.
I think everybody needs that small group of people who will just always be blatantly upfront and honest with you.
Absolutely. Has to be honest.
Right. And, you know, just a little tidbit from my past, for me, it was Don Wilbur. Don Wilbur, we crossed paths early before I became a national referee. I think it was at an amateur event. He it ended up being the assessor. Just out of coincidence, was the assessor on my first ever professional game. It was a USL. I think back then it was USL 1. Maybe it was
Okay.
even, I can't remember.
A-League maybe?
It might have still been A-League. It was down in Miami. It was Miami against Puerto Rico. And John Wilbur was the assessor. And that was when my professional career took off. That first year I had, I think, 6 USL games and a playoff game. And that once the season was over, I got the invite to MLS. And Don and I are still good friends. I still reach out to him all the time. I use him as an observer for some NAIA games up at one of the Sun Conference schools. Speaking of Watson and that, I should put those two things together. I should put Greg on a game as an AR and assign you as the observer.
No, put him at referee. I don't care what his skills are or his.
I mean, it would be a fantastic turnabout as fair play, right?
Just send it back.
Yeah, just send it right back. The tables have turned, Greg.
Yes. Quick Wilbur story for you. I'm at Women's College Cup when he was working for the NCAA. Was it 2 years? He was there for 2 years, right? When he was assigning the tournament.
Yeah. When he was the first ever. He was the first ever NCAA coordinator of soccer officials.
Yes, right. And I love Don, love him. But we came back to the hotel after matches, and we were showering up, and we're going to go down and meet Don. He was taking us to dinner, and in between showering and going to dinner, CJ Morganti walked off his game.
At Akron.
In Akron. And let's just
walk off heard around the world.
Well, the fact of the matter, which is great about that, is that he actually stuck around to get his flags back after the game. You don't just come on, man. If you're gonna mic drop, just mic drop. But you can imagine dinner was a little bit more entertaining thus after the event than before. But yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are a couple more questions in the chat. That hits on one of them. Obviously, we talked about the importance of a mentor. You need that person that's going to keep an eye on you and give you brutally honest feedback and steer your career in the right directions. And
Sure.
Don was that guy for me, and I assume Eric was one of those guys for you.
Yeah.
Another question that's popped up is, what point did you realize the path? Let me find it here. When did you see the path to becoming a pro/FIFA referee?
Man, it was so late, Chris. I've said this a bunch of times before too. I was grade 7, maybe for 8 years, 7 or 8 years.
Were you bald then too?
Oh. Okay. No, that's fine. That's cool. I don't think I was just yet, but listen, as I told Lance the other day, God was a little inconsistent in giving out his quaffs, and I just missed that day. But thanks for bringing that up, Chris.
Well, we've been good friends for such a long time, Ted.
Yeah. What was the question again?
When did you realize the path to pro? When did you see the path to pro in FIFA?
Yeah. So it's an interesting worded question because I think even now there's not a path to pro, right? I think that's the most frustrating thing that you and I deal with, and I don't want to speak for you, but you and I deal with when we do go to instruct or mentor or whatever, and there's no real answer. It's not like go here, be seen by there, and then in whatever time you're going to get there. There's a little bit of excitement in that, as we've seen with your wife, which was, a moment that it was so celebratory. I'm sure in your household, and certainly it wasn't ours, because we're so close and we root for each other. But it took me 7 or 8 years, honestly, out of a grade 7, and part of that was just, hey, I'm local, I get to do games. I don't know if there's anything more than this, and I don't know if you realize, when you turn on TV, turn on TV to watch LeBron James and Jimmy Butler, right? Or we watch Messi or pick your favorite soccer player, or whatever. But you don't really watch the referee until you are a referee or are an official. I never paid attention to really the baseball umpires. I love the game until Brian Miller, these kind of things, right? So all I knew back then is that, well, if I go up a grade, then I have to do a fitness test. Well, that's nonsense. And then you get to do these games, but then you have to drive distances to get there. I'm I just want to go up the road and knock out a game or two and make my cash and go home. And when people start saying, yeah, I'm going to drive to Orlando to referee a game, I'm like, you realize it's going to take you longer to get there than it is the time that you're spending there. That's dumb. Like, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
But I think then the athlete kicks in. I think your competitive nature kicks in, and you're like, well, oh wait, there is a path. I need to get to these things. So why not do that? And then from there, I was very fortunate. It was fast forward. My first state Final Four was a ticket to regionals. And then 3 regionals later, of nationals back to back. And, it took off. It took off like a force. That's a bad reference right now. Sorry to all my friends. Sorry, Cam. But it took off really, really quick after that. And
Yeah.
I think part of that before then, I just didn't know.
That's fine. We can edit that part out later. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. No, that's good. And, that's one of the things I always tell people too, is you just have to be patient because you never know when that time's going to come. And
You
it
don't.
can fall in your lap,
Right.
and it'll fall in your lap when you're least expecting it.
Yeah, and like I was mentioning with Tori, I mean, to elaborate on that, I think the really awesome thing right now is that if you've shown, like, you have the acumen, you can do it, like, whatever. It doesn't matter what your definition is, like a national referee or tier 2 pro or whatever. You can do it. Here's your assignment. Go do it, and let's see what happens, right? And I know the American conference, right? Your bigger D1 conference got pushed to the spring, but like, we've had many conversations. Like, that's like, I love the fact you're gonna give some people a shot, and go do it. And I think that's all we've really asked for, right? We can't. I said that, I think, when I did my educational thing this summer, like, we don't always control the opportunities that we get, but man, when you get them, you got to run with them. You got to knock them out of the park.
Yeah, for sure. You're married to Christina.
Yeah.
Right? Also a referee.
Yes.
So how'd that come about?
Well, so first you start dating, and then,
Really?
it progresses. And then you say some vows, and then I do, and she says some vows, and I do. And then, and then 11, 12 years later, like, here we are. And with Quinn, and, who's now 4 and asked for a motorcycle for her birthday. I don't know where we left there. We were just watching Paw Patrol yesterday. Yeah. Paw Patrol.
Did you guys met? Did you meet through refereeing?
No, we met through soccer though. I think I was refereeing a tournament over in Cocoa Beach, and she was hanging out, either playing or so.
Okay.
And then she was playing at PBA when we were dating, right? And it was that was a rude awakening for Joseph Mickna, who was refereeing her game. It's like, what's Ted doing here? Why did he drive all this way? And then, the rest is history. And I think, the misnomer is that we talk soccer all the time, and we don't.
No.
We don't.
There's many weekends where we get together, either down in your neck of the woods, out at the condo, or you guys come up, splash around in the pool out back, and talk about a lot of things that typically aren't soccer.
Yep. And listen, that's how marriages work, right? It's not the one common ground. It's a bit of everything. So it's awesome that we have soccer there, because it's an understanding of how much time we put into it. The crazy things that we do. I mean, our COVID testing, Chris, has had us up leaving at 5:30 in the morning. Like, who volunteers to do that for what takes 45 seconds, if that, to shove something up your nose? And we do it without hesitation.
Yeah, I think both of our alarms are going off at 5:30 tomorrow morning, right?
They are. I just got to get past Thono to Sassa before you do.
Yeah. Well, as long as people secure their boats properly and they don't land in the middle of the interstate, we'll be okay. All right, next question. Tori and I get asked this quite a bit. Essentially, how do you do it? So, the question is, there's quite a bit going on in your house between Christina being a full-time lawyer and refereeing, and you guys have Quinn, and you're obviously a full-time referee and have other responsibilities.
Sure.
How do you balance all of it?
Yeah, I think, like, it's interesting because, like, for me, time is so important. I know when I have to leave my house to the minute to get somewhere, and that's how I look at everything. And an extra minute is so important. So no matter if it's inconvenience or not, if I can go pick up Quinn, and just so that I've seen her, and maybe we can't hold on to her because we have to hop on a plane or something, then that moment's worth it. I'm always last flight out, first flight in guy. I know that puts pressure on us to be to get our needed rest in and stuff. But there's nothing more important than family. So that first and foremost is there. And then you prioritize down. You can't sacrifice. The minute you start sacrificing is the minute that you're not given your best in whatever that may be at the time, right? Like you said, I have other stuff to do too. I have the businesses that I run that puts food on the table. It makes a living for this. It's built the fireplace that sits in front of you or in front of me right now. And those things obviously matter. But one thing we don't do a good job of is the vacation thing. And I'm trying to get better at that, to say, you know what, we're gonna block this and we're gonna actually go do something, because it's so hard, and we get in this cycle of saying, you know what, stop, let's just go 4 days here or 7 days here. We have to plan months and months and months in advance for that stuff, and then actually block that stuff out. But, if you realize that every moment is important and you have your priorities there and you don't sacrifice in anything that you do, and if it's like, you know what, I just can't get that in today, but I'm not going to do a shit job at it, then you move that down the road, and that's okay. Right? It's just okay. You can compartmentalize. You can say, I'll get that done tomorrow morning. Just don't try to put, 26 hours into a 24-hour day.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
How do you do it? I mean, you have the same household that we have.
We just put extra food and water in our bowls before we leave.
And fruit.
And
you have more fruit in your house than anybody I've ever seen.
A lot of fruit in this house. I mean, you guys have been here a lot. There's always fruit in the fridge, I should say.
Always fruit in the fridge.
And then my wife convinced me to buy a Blendtec, which is a big price tag. And while I was apprehensive at first because of the price tag, we're like 160 blends in, and it's been like 7 weeks. So now there's even more fruit in the fridge.
Right, but did you see that Blendtec counts the cleans as a blend?
Ted, I'm not lazy. I clean it by hand. Okay.
Oh, well, you should use it. You spent whatever you spent on it. You should let it clean itself.
I'm just kidding. I didn't want to act like my blend number was inflated. Okay.
Oh, do you want to share the story where after you bought your Blendtec, you manipulated my wife into buying one when I was on the road?
I don't know what you're talking about. But I do remember having that conversation with you while we were standing at gate E64 at Tampa International Airport.
Yeah, I do like that.
Hey, Ted, by the way, when you get home, there's going to be a box on the porch.
I remember that. I'm not on social media much, but I saw it coming.
That's okay. Hey, a couple more questions popped in. Your biggest learning moment in your career?
They're always the ones that you fail in. Absolutely, everything that puts you at the height of like, holy hell, man! Like what just happened? Why did I see that? And it's funny because I'll tell you this, like in our year end, we're open here, right? In our year end review last year, I said to Howard, he's like, what Howard said that, hey, what do you, what would you do differently this year? And I said, there's 2 decisions I want back. There's 2 decisions. And listen, there's probably not the 2 decisions that I got wrong, but there is nothing more frustrating for me that I've put myself in the position, I've seen it, I've processed it, and I've come out with the wrong outcome. And there was 2 times last year that stand out that are it. Was that the biggest learning experience? I'm sure I've had more prior to that, but I would say in general, it's those. It's the times that you are tested, your mettle is tested the most, where you start, I wouldn't say you start doubting your ability, but you're pushed to the brink of like, because we're very public, and people can easily pour it on and so on, and you really need that strength of yourself, one, because you're going to spend most of that time with you. Yeah. And you need a strength of your circle most at those times. But without a doubt, buddy, it's when on the field, I've seen something, I've made the wrong decision, and I'm like, man, I can't explain myself.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was on a Zoom call earlier this evening before Fireside, and the question was asked, like, what are some of your most memorable games, and for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. And in one of the games that sticks in my head for the wrong reasons was a game in Kansas City in 2017, Kansas City, Atlanta, and I was on a really good streak, a really good run of form. I hadn't aired on a KMI, and for those of you at home that don't know what that is, it's a key match incident. Those are the big decisions in the game. That's how pro grades us, Ted and I and our coworkers. I hadn't aired on a KMI the entire season, and we were 5 weeks away from the playoffs, right? And I screwed up a couple of KMIs in that game. Failed to send off a guy for a tackle. I forget what the other one was, and it just kind of went downhill. And I don't know if it was just me looking ahead, right?
Yeah.
That was such a good year, but you're right. I mean, the ones that you mess up are the ones that you remember. I remember more of those than I remember the good ones. You remember you remember the ones where you screw stuff up. You don't really remember the ones where everything goes right.
No, you mentioned I just had my 100th, and that's 100th of just the whistle and regular season in the MLS, right? So think about how many games we've done out of that that aren't necessarily that don't jump off the page, but we've gone and done a bang-up job, or we've nailed the decisions that we needed to nail, or whatever that is. But adversity teaches you more than anything, and that's okay. Like, not still. This is a good line. I ran into Tori the morning after her game, and I remember her saying that Mark Geiger had sent her a note, and it just, his note was, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I think, that's such a great lesson for all the referees. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be really good. It has to be really good, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. Yep. And on that line, I said the same thing on the call earlier tonight. I said, so some of the advice I give to the younger guys in our group, right, at pro, I said, the sooner you realize that you won't be perfect at this job, and the sooner you realize that, we do make mistakes, we all make mistakes, the better off you're going to be, the smoother your career is going to go, and the happier you're going to be with it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What is your advice to officials who aspire to reach the top, but maybe at a point in his or her life that requires the balance of so many of the things that we've talked about?
Man, that's such a tough one, because I don't think there's a golden answer to that. There's always another game, right, Chris? I think when we come up, we get so nervous about blocking out something because we're going to miss out. It's going to be that game. It's the best game ever, but it's not until next week, and then the next week and next week. And the great thing about the landscape now is that there truly is so many games, and so many games televised, right? I mean, we've seen Matt Thompson on TV more times than I can even tell you, and he's in towns like Memphis and Oklahoma City, and he's there for a really long time because he really likes stoppage time. He likes to play a long time.
Yeah, it's like an average of 9.6 minutes.
It's amazing, man. It's almost like another half. I mean, I'm looking in the rule book or law book for, I don't know where the third half is, but Matt's found it. But hey, I love the guy. And there's that stuff out there, and I think it goes back to what I said earlier. If you're in a position where you're going to accept an assignment, like, know that if you're accepting an assignment, you got to give it your all. It's got to be the focus of knowing what you have going in. It's got to be the 90 plus when you're there, and it's got to be the reflection afterwards. And if you can give that, then accept it. And if you can't, then don't. Yeah. Right? And we all have a ton of stuff on our plate. And I don't know, man. Like, there's no golden, like I said, there's no golden answer to this. And everybody's a little bit different. And everybody can withstand a little bit different weight on their shoulders than others, right? I mean, I think God bless the people that do go out and have heavy fall schedules right now, or do the 30 games or plus whatever in a collegiate season. I mean, we're in this rotation now, and take away COVID and the condensed season and so on, but we're asked to referee with a whistle once a week, one time. 7 days later, you get to do it again, right? And that's a lot on us, right? It's a whole lot on us. And you've got to bring that down into your own world, wherever you are in your rise to the top. But if you want to be successful refereeing, you got to referee like somebody's watching, because everybody's watching.
All the
And
time.
I'll tell you, and if nobody,
watching.
absolutely, and if nobody knows, if people don't know this, that Christina's broadcasting gig for the Women's World Cup became because the producer from Fox loved the way she refereed when she refereed Brazil during the She Believes Cups. Have you ever stepped on a field for any match and thinking, hey, the producer of the broadcast tonight is watching how I'm handling this situation? Right. And sure enough, that somehow those traits translated. And if there's anything there that goes into that, I mean, that's example number one, right?
Somebody's always watching, right?
Always.
Watching. Yeah, and going back to the question, I think everybody's situation is different. And the only piece of advice I give to everybody is, no matter what you decide, family has to come first.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if things aren't good at home, it doesn't matter how hard you try in the field, it's just not going to be right. It's not going to feel right. It's not going to go right. It's just not going to be right. All right, let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Okay, Chris.
And let's do some moonlighting in your collegiate career.
Yeah, feels like moons ago.
Yeah, you spent many years as a top collegiate official. Now, obviously, with the collective bargaining agreement with pro, we're not permitted to work college really until we're released from playoff consideration, which most years isn't until college season is over anyway.
Right.
What are some of your best experiences in the collegiate arena?
Yeah, so I mean, the college cups were awesome because we always want to reach the pinnacle, and that was an opportunity to do that. And you're the last one standing. You know, these games are the most important. They put trophies in people's cases, and you're chosen to officiate them and see them through. And that's always an incredible honor, right? No matter in the collegiate game or otherwise. You'd see a good amount of the country when you do the college game, and that's pretty awesome because you're in small towns that you wouldn't have been in otherwise. Like nobody is saying, hey, I can't wait to take my family to Starkville, Mississippi. That's going to be, they got a good water park down there. We should all go, right? You don't do that. But then you show up there and you get to, I think it makes you a more whole person where you experience different cultures. And because, if you go to Starkville, there's a hell of a barbecue place one small town over, and you should go there. Like, you really should go there. And if you go there, there's actually a signed yellow card on the wall because the guy asked me for one. But I do that. And then one of my favorite memories, especially early in my college career, was, who's doing it with you, right? I mean, like, you're on the road and Miller's on the road. And for me, it was Tony Russo and Corey Rockwell. And these guys are on the road. So you're finishing up your games and you're driving back to your hotel or you're driving wherever you're driving. And you're hopping on the phone and you're like, hey, how'd your game go tonight? Hey, and how'd your game go? Oh, you won't believe what happened here, and that kind of thing. And man, those are some of my most fun moments. And you're listening to some local radio station that's broadcasting like the Clemson baseball game. And, if you get down to, Big Al's Auto tomorrow, you can get a good deal on a used car. Like, those things are really, really awesome.
Historic Riggs Field, right?
Historic Riggs Field. Yeah. But, it's like, as the career went on in college, like, you have to build those relationships. And that's one thing that I love right now, that we've been part of this game for so long that, to really enjoy this, to really be successful in all this, you bridge it, right? So now we've got relationships on the TV side. We have relationships with the coaches that we still take the field with. And those are those conversations that you get to have with them before the game, or if you see them elsewhere, if they're recruiting at a youth tournament or something like that, then you get to, you learn, they learn. And, for the greater good of the game that we're servicing, man, I just think it's all positive. That's all positive. So I would say make those strides to do that. And I know we butt our heads with technical staff. We do.
What do you mean?
Man, listen, I thank David Ellery and IFAB for allowing me to caution the coaches now in professional game. But if you can bridge that gap, Man, I've always said, like, for me anyway, I think the barbecue in the off season where everybody's around and you can go share a dog and share a conversation.
Yeah.
Man, that would be awesome. That'd be great, man. Because
Yeah.
there's elements of all that stuff. Remember the pyramid? Remember the pyramid way back in the Tamburino Hall days where there was like an entertainment piece, there was the whatever piece, and then like that same year, people took the entertainment piece way too far. So there's tackles everywhere, but you know, in balance, like I said, I think it's all positive.
No, I agree. So aside from Starkville, Mississippi, what are some of your favorite college venues?
Yeah, Maryland, what they built there is just awesome, man. And you know, and I did them in the ACC, so before they switched over to the Big Ten, it's tight. They pack it. It's like really awesome there. I've always really enjoyed Florida State. There's a few things there. I mean, the 5-hour drive is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But once you get there and it's a storied program that wins national championships, and that venue with the brick and the stadium kind of sitting in and people show up, and you know, there's the Friday night Florida State game is something that, you know, I'll always remember. That is awesome. SMU, because we passed a lot of fitness tests on that track, so not only is that grass some of the best grass in the country, awesome, but yeah, you know, and like I remember venturing up to Notre Dame for an ACC final, and there's something about South Bend that, you know, you have Touchdown Jesus in the background. I don't know, you just feel a little bit more holy that day, and you know, there's something to it. But you know, those venues really stand out to me. Yeah, I mean, in terms of that. But what are your favorite venues in college? You've done this a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a handful. I love going to Clemson. I love historic Riggs Field.
Yeah.
Especially when you get there on a Friday night, right? And they've got 6,000-7,000 people in the place.
By the way, have you ever been there on the first Friday?
I have never been there on First Friday.
Oh man, dude, where they're taking those big CLEMSON touchdown flags, right? Touchdown flags, and they're running behind. Fraternity sororities have to show up. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I've heard of First Friday. I've seen pictures. I'm a little envious that I've been to Riggs Field probably 15 times, right? The last collegiate game I refereed actually was at Riggs Field. It was the Clemson-Stanford quarterfinal last year.
Yeah.
Akron obviously was always in my backyard.
Of course.
Back in the heyday, you know, when Akron was a top 5 program, they'd pack thousands of people in a field that was made for 800.
Yeah.
You know, it was just the student section fills up behind the goal on the hill, and then at halftime they move over to the other goal behind the opposing goalkeeper the whole 90 minutes. It's just wild.
Yes.
And then there's a couple other ones. You know, I love going to Wake Forest. I got some great memories of Wake Forest.
Sure.
Wake Forest.
Wait, do you really like the boiler room? Is that why you like going?
Love the boiler room. AK locker room.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, you know, Ben Jackson, good friend of ours.
Yeah, of course.
Long-time national assistant referee in U.S. soccer and long-time college referee, since retired. Also, the same orthopedic surgeon that did the surgery on my Achilles.
Yeah.
I worked with him. The Wake Forest Stanford quarterfinal, I want to say it was either 17 or 18. I think 17. His last game, he retired that game.
Yeah.
And to date, I'm pretty sure the largest crowd ever at Wake Forest, like 8,000 people, and the place is made for 5. You've been there. I mean, there's people in the trees behind the benches.
Hanging out the trees, the trees behind the goal.
The road was closed behind up on the hill.
Yeah.
The road was closed because there's just so many people, and they packed them in. It was wild. But
you know, what you just explained was exactly why I think we underestimate the college game for professional development. And I wish that we could, you know, there's a way, I don't know logistically, and I'm not a wizard here, but how you could pick some games. And I know there's different assigners and so on, but man, there's certain games out there that are just crackers. Out west, I know we're East Coast biased, but out west, you know, talking with the Andersons and so on, there's some awesome games all around this country to do. But my question to you is this, Chris: have you ever arrived at a college game to referee in a custom bus?
No, I can't. I can't compare to the likes of Mark Cahan, Lance Van Heitzma, and Jonathan Weiner.
Yeah,
Arriving to a college game in an Empire Fitness charter bus.
yeah, charter bus. Yeah, I saw that photo come through, and I don't even. I'm speechless. I mean, that's
It's pretty epic.
that's epic. That's how you reach the elite. You've
It's
gotten there.
pretty epic. A couple of questions have popped in on the chat.
Sure.
Very good friend of ours, Alan Kelly.
Oh yeah.
We'd like to know the biggest difference refereeing soccer from when we started to now. And obviously, I think the obvious answer for me is, well, Alan, when I started, I didn't work with people with an accent. So now I do.
Wow.
But Ted, I'll let you handle that.
Yeah, you mean like from when we started to really? I think the biggest difference absolutely is started refereeing, kind of getting everything right was fine. It was fine. We walk off the field and everybody believes that the decisions were fair, and the outcome was just, and we've done our job, Chris. And now it is definitely not that. It is how many decisions did you get right? How many decisions did you get wrong? How many did you miss a yellow card? Right? Did you like? It's so specific. It's so, we deal with video review where we are. College now has the video review process. So not only that, we think we've got it right. Our 20 years of experience still can be turned around by a camera angle from behind the goal. And now we've got to rely on facts, where I think when we came up refereeing, it wasn't that. It wasn't that. Like Baldemaro Toledo, from a feel of a referee, man, watching that guy work in his prime was just eloquent. It was just absolutely eloquent. And I think the game has changed where you've got to be spot on, and sometimes it's just not as enjoyable as it was before. But you have to change your approach because that's the environment of today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I will say this before you go on, though. I will say that Alan Kelly has maybe a better professional referee, and I tip my cap to him on that.
Fantastic. I do agree. He's a welcome addition. He's a good addition to the group for sure.
Yeah.
And he brings a good point of view on a lot of the clips that we discuss when we're at camp.
Definitely.
A couple other questions that popped in. What are some of the ways that you've developed or developed your people skills in refereeing?
Oh, it's purely games, man. It's experiences and trial and error, and then you realize when your emotions have to come out and when they don't. Let's use Dallas for example on Saturday night because it's fresh in our mind, right? So I call what I believe is an obvious penalty, and Pedro kind of loses his mind a little bit. We've calmed him down, and now I issue the yellow card to the Dallas goalkeeper for not going on his line because, hey, law says, I'm sorry, Columbus goalkeeper, right? Yeah, to go on his line, and hey, he doesn't go on his line, and Pedro loses his mind and comes at me again. I know because of my relationship with him, and you saw I can put my arm around him. Probably not best in COVID time, but whatever. We've tested negative, right? And I can walk with him, and that diffuses the situation. In game, I have a throw in, and Jara his voice starts getting really loud and louder. So then I hit my whistle louder than him and put him on the spot. And now there's this, from what I'm trying to do here, is have him recoil a little bit because now he thinks that he's in control, and I'm trying to get that control back. And I think, and there's example over example of doing that. What do you say when you're on the run? What do you say like a dead ball situation? What do you say when they're speaking Spanish and I'm not very fluent in Spanish? There's no right words for this. I remember the classic Herb Silva line, the read verbal judo, and you'll be managing and refereeing for forever. It's the best. Not necessarily, man, because it's on you. And if you're not loud, if you're not, forward in your personality, then it doesn't work for you. But you have to find something that does.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, I respect Tori's, Tori's refereeing so much. First game out, I'm sure there's jitters and uncertainties and all that stuff, but man, she's talking to the players like she's been there. And, and the way that we're successful is that we're confident in what we're doing. And you can back that up by knowing rule, knowing law. I know he has to be on that line for the penalty. So no matter how upset people get, I know that I'm right. Law backs me up on this. And I can be confident in that. And I need to protrude that, outward.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. One more. What advice would you give to your 14-year-old self? Looking back on your career.
Oh man. On the refereeing career?
Yeah.
We'll go with that on the refereeing career. Yeah, it's most definitely patience, man. I thought, like, back then I could run, and you saw me in the 45th minute, like I could still run. Don't say anything different, Chris. I can. I promise.
I have no room to talk.
Yeah, I mean, glad that halftime was right after that, but but no, in all seriousness, like, I thought I could run, so I could referee. And there was somebody back then that said, I can't teach you how to run. I can teach you how to referee. So you think earlier than I thought earlier than I was that I was ready. And it's not. It's patience, and it's games, and it's experience. And it's, no matter how much you speed it up, right? If you can go from lifting 200 pounds to bench pressing 300 pounds in 2 months or whatever your statistic is. I'm just making stuff up there. And we don't lift weights in pro, but no, whatever that statistic is, when it comes to, being ready, it's all game count. It's all match experience. In my opinion, I think it's all match experience. And you just got to keep doing games and doing games and doing games. And if I knew that when I was 14, then I'd have a little bit more of an open mind on that 14-year-old to, kind of early 20s, 20s viewpoint.
Yeah, that's good.
What about you?
What would my advice be?
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the same. Just be patient, right? Just be patient. Be patient, put the work in. I don't think I would do anything different. I had, I figured it out along the way. I think I pinpointed the right time when I kind of flipped my switch and gave up on refereeing, or gave up on playing, and put all my eggs in a referee basket. And, I think my only advice would be to be patient and put the work in. And if you want the results, be patient and put the work in.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, Scott Dyer submitted a question through the email earlier this week. Going back to people skills, what are some tips to say to coaches when they are constantly arguing with your decisions? And it might not be a good question for you, because your response is probably just to give them a yellow card.
So a good. You mentioned yellow cards, right? Good for. So here's another lesson that I still remember. I take to heart in my own games. Good friend of mine, good friend of ours, Drew Fisher.
Yeah.
Drew Fisher, right? Drew Fisher's asked to watch a game. He's asked to watch a game by a referee or by the Canadian Soccer Association, right? Or the Manitoba Eskimos, or wherever he lives. If he's asked to watch a game and give some feedback, and someone comes off and says, hey, I had, whatever, they had 5 or 6 cautions. What did you think? What did you think of my cautions? And his first question is, did you need them all? Did you need to give all 5 or 6 cautions? And man, talk about an analysis into, back what really matters is your decision making and the narrative and how this whole thing plays out. And I think a little bit of that, this is you related to the question that you just asked. Are the decisions you making, are they making sense? Is it on you that why the coach is a little off kilter? If it's not, if it's truly on the coach, and how do you diffuse that, then I don't know. Like, I go back to, I don't know if there's actual certain language or words that are specific, but I think that what works for me is a mutual respect and not be a player or a coach or anything. So you can hit your whistle louder. You can get them to the point of putting up your hand or whatever way you use it. But man, but if you're talking respectful and then they come back over the top and disrespectful, then you have easy decisions to make. But if you can turn that conversation to a one-on-one and that diffuses it for the rest of the game, man, then you found the secret sauce.
Yeah.
So try to get there.
Okay, I like that. That's good. A few more questions, and then we're going to dive into a little video analysis. We're a few minutes behind schedule, but that's okay. I think we can fly through these. I'm going to lob you a couple of softballs. Okay.
Sure, go for it.
Now that you've been wearing my FIFA badge and stealing it at the end of 2015, what are some of your best experiences representing U.S. soccer as a FIFA referee?
Yeah, so the first game that I wore it when you were on the same game, I'm just joking. Answer went with the question. No, some of my best experiences, honestly, going to Azteca and doing a World Cup qualifier, doing the FA Cup final in China, some of these amazing international friendlies that I would have only gotten to do because I had the badge during World Cup years, like going in. I remember Peru, Iceland at Red Bull, and nobody fills up Red Bull, even during MLS games. And it was Peru in the stands, and
Peru
it was
will fill up Red Bull.
absolutely awesome. But yeah, El Salvador will fill up DC, Peru fills up Red Bull, so on and so forth. And it's those experiences there. And I got to do the Madrid derby last year, and that's the first time that two of the best teams in the world and the best players in the world got to play outside of Spain. They were on U.S. soil, and I get to take charge of that. And I know that they say the game doesn't matter because it's a friendly. The game matters. I wouldn't have had 10 goals, 2 penalties, 2 red cards, if it doesn't matter. But yeah, some pretty awesome stuff.
Awesome. All right, another softball for you. There's a petition on change.org with nearly 1,000 signatures to have you removed as an MLS referee.
Yeah.
How's that make you feel?
Yeah, a little disappointed that the number's so low. I've been doing this a long time. You figure you kind of ruffle a bunch of feathers because, if a team doesn't win, then I'm certain that petition gets a little bit longer. My only question back to you is, like, have you signed it? Has anybody from the Penso household signed it?
I actually have that here on my sheet as a follow-up question. Would you be offended if I signed it?
Once again, I'd be shocked if you haven't already.
Okay. All right. Because Tori and I actually have that on our calendar to take care of that tonight. So
that'd be fine. We're getting done a little late. I'd put your girls to bed first, and then, but yeah.
Speaking of that, because this is probably where it started. Do you ever think you'll be allowed back in Orlando?
I will. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning for a COVID test. I'll be going to Orlando, and I've actually attended there every 3 days.
Do the Orlando City fans know that?
No, they don't. And I think this presentation is within NISOA and NISOA only.
Lucky for you, huh?
Yeah.
And then going with the topic tonight, right? Officiating under pressure. There's a great deal of pressure on you at the level at which you officiate, right?
Yeah.
Since tonight's topic is officiating under pressure, what are some of the stressors and how do you deal with them?
Yeah, you have to, normally we have a bunch of people in the stands that try to add influence to your decisions. And I think the longer you do this, the less you hear them. So that helps out. You're able to black those things out. Not any baseball fans out there, the Kevin Costner movie, employ the mechanism and you all of a sudden it goes quiet. It doesn't go quiet, but it all just sounds like white noise. And that certainly does help, right? Now it's a bit different because we don't have that. We have this like empty environment. And once again, the same pressures exist to make decisions correct, big decisions correct. The game moves 1,000 miles per hour. And you've got to put yourself in that same mindset. You're going to have to find that mechanism that is kind of white noise like, and you're there because people will still yell at you. People will still, try to bait you into big decisions, be it penalties, red cards, anything that changes the game. And you have to believe in yourself. So once again, back to be confident in the rules if you're in NISOA or NCAA, you be confident in the laws if you're doing professional games. Lean on those and then lean on your experiences. Lean on your gut because your gut will lead you in the right way 99% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. So piggybacking off of that, now that we have VAR, right,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a normal thing in MLS, does that alleviate some of the pressure?
No, it doesn't. Because for me, I think the VA, once you go into a review, it's so magnified.
Yeah.
We get that. Barkey sends out the previews every week, and then that ends up being on, the final reviews are on MLS soccer website, and people are watching you go to the monitor and so on. So I think at the beginning it was this, it was a bit of a safety net where I believe, you were my VAR in Saturday night in Dallas, and we had the one sort of check for possible handling, possible not.
No. We
Right?
didn't even look at it, remember? We didn't even
Oh
look at
yeah,
it.
yeah. Per some people, we didn't look at it.
We didn't even look at it.
Yeah, but any case, I'd asked you, hey Chris, they're calling for handling on the field. Can you please take a look at that? There's definitely a satisfaction in knowing that you haven't made a clear and obvious error or a big error then and there, right? Or you have, and you have the opportunity to change it. But the opposite side of that is once, all through the game, you're a part of the game, right? And once you stop and you have to go review, it's cameras on you. And that's it, right? And that's a ton of pressure because if anybody, right, we've done it where you're at a monitor in a full stadium and all they're waiting for is your decision. And, Mark Geiger, if you're listening, give us some microphones. Just give Chris and I some microphones so we can announce ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So we can make sure we're clear, but it's all right. It's all on you. It's all on you. And people in the college game are starting to realize that too. You go to the benches, man, you got two coaches staring over you. What's your decision going to be? What are you going to decide?
Well, you got five coaches from both benches and another 15 student athletes. You got 40 people just in the benches, not to mention 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people all staring down at you as you look at that monitor, trying to figure it out, right? So maybe in essence, does VAR add pressure?
Yeah, and I'll buy into that argument any day. You want to argue that? I'm in.
Yeah. All right. That wraps up the questions. I don't think we have anything else that's been sent to me via the chat. So let's dive in. We've got 5 videos. Obviously, tonight's topic is officiating under pressure. So all of these videos center around match-changing incidents within the last 5 minutes of the game or in overtime. And these are all from this season. And as many of you know, there aren't a lot of games this season. So for me to be able to find this many clips already, we're barely into October, it just tells us, even though we don't have a lot of games this year, we've always got to be ready, right?
Yeah.
So let me jump over to screen share. And we'll go with clip 1, Fireside 1. A little grainy, so we'll wait for the replay as it buffers out.
Sure, this is the Iowa State game, right, Chris?
Yeah, this is Iowa State, Oklahoma State. We've got about 4 minutes to go in the second half and a tied game. And the referee here, Brandon Gardner, has given a penalty for a foul committed by the goalkeeper. And we're going to see a replay here in just a second. And I'll play it one more time, Ted, while you're talking. So why don't you go ahead with it?
Yeah. So, let me first say that, last 5 minutes of the game, first 5 minutes of the game, middle of the game, it doesn't matter. Big decisions are big decisions. And if we make them correctly, then we make them correctly. Not calling a penalty here is not the right decision. Just because we're at the end of the game and we quote unquote don't want to influence the outcome. We don't know when these things are going to come up, but as you see here, the attacker from Oklahoma State touches the ball to the right. The goalkeeper makes the commitment to the challenge. She actually extends her arms again to get enough contact there to take down the attacker, and we have the penalty. So cheers to Brandon for calling the penalty here. The one thing. And it's funny because I think in the follow-up clip to this, if I remember correctly, and I'll leave it at that right now, the good thing over the last couple of years is that NCAA rules have really mirrored the change in law on the FIFA side and on the IFAB side. So here you would expect a Doxo yellow card. The yellow card was not issued, but goalkeeper challenging for the ball in the penalty area. It's going to leave an open net. I think we've checked off the boxes for Doxo.
Yep.
And even though the defender's back there, that defender has her basically her silhouette for as we're going to use these terms, her silhouette to deal with, and nothing outside that. So, I would have liked to see yellow card here.
Yeah, and that's obviously not a defender that can use their hands, right? I think kudos to Brandon here, obviously, for giving the penalty. It's a big decision with 4.5 minutes to go. Also, I think a positive here is his movement, right? He stays right instead of going left, which is traditional diagonal. He stays right, has a good angle. And as you well know, the right angle will more often than not lead you to the right position.
That's right. You want to be able to see between the two players here, and he does a great job in doing that.
Yeah, so that's obviously the decision, and you kind of, you gave us a little precursor. Here's the ensuing penalty.
Yeah, so like you said, the ensuing penalty. So Iowa State goalkeeper makes an excellent save here. I mean, truly, it's an excellent save, but she gains an advantage from being off her line prior to the kick. Now, Brandon does issue the yellow card here. NCAA rules allow, what'd you say, one freebie as for the layman term there, Chris?
Yep, under the NCAA rules, which will be under FIFA rules, obviously for MLS once we start next year, but under NCAA rules, the first offense is a warning. So Brandon unfortunately gives the yellow card, but obviously the soccer gods are looking down on us, and the goalkeeper ends up getting the misconduct that she's already earned just for a different offense. Just
delayed. I think what Brandon was doing was trying to find the yellow card from a couple minutes prior, and he actually did and issued it there. That's purely a joke. But the good thing here is, the really, really good thing is that we've recognized that the goalkeeper gains an advantage to come off the line, even though since she has the save, we retake the penalty. And once again, a massive decision. She's not happy with it, but it is 100% correct.
Yeah, and I think kudos to the assistant referee here, right, for having the courage to put the flag up.
Yes, absolutely. That's big, man, because you put that flag up, and talk about a magnifying glass when we're in VAR. That's the same magnifying glass when you're the only person on the field that is standing there waving the thing in your hand.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on to clip 3. We've got Pittsburgh and the Citadel in an overtime game. In the first overtime with 7 minutes to go. There's contact between two players. Not much reaction, but then we have the referee giving a penalty.
Yeah, the tough thing, and I've always leaned on this, Chris. I think I've always said that a decision 30 yards into goal is massive, either in or coming back out, right? If it's going in, certainly this is a goal scoring type of opportunity, and it has to be big. And here, multiply that by 100 times, because now we're in overtime. Now we're inside the penalty area. Now we're calling a penalty that should decide the outcome, right? This is the best opportunity for an attacking team to score, to be undefended and be on the spot and be 12 yards away from the goal there. I'm not so sure that I would call this this doesn't jump out to me, Chris, in my opinion anyway, as something that would be a penalty in this particular instance, but I'm curious as to your opinion.
No, I'm with you. I know, and I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. We don't want to, we want to decide. We don't want to become involved, but we have to deal with the cards that are dealt to us, right? Yep. So while we don't want to swallow the whistle per se, over time, we still have rules to enforce and expectations to meet. If I've paused it here at the time, the contact has already occurred and play is continued. And if you'll see, nobody on the field has reacted, right? So I think one of the considerations we have to take into account here is nobody on the field wants this, right? So if we're the only person on the field that thinks that it's a penalty, was it really a penalty?
Yeah,
and I'm not arguing that there was contact, right? There's contact. There's contact between an attacker and a defender. Yep. But when you look at the reaction of the players, is that the kind of stone cold penalty we want to give in overtime, which, as you well know, NCAA, overtime is golden goal, right? And if they hit this penalty, which they end up making the penalty, they convert the penalty and they win in overtime 2-1. So
sure. And we Chris, sorry for interrupting there, but you know, upper body contact is a lot different than lower body contact, and I think that's what we have here, right? We have the torso going into the torso, and in a challenge to try to head the ball. You know, those types of things, the little bit of grabs, the little bit of pushes, the little bit of that has to be a lot of that, a lot of whatever it may be. Where you know, I think trips and anything on the lower body is a little bit more clear cut. We give a little bit more deference on the upper part.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So yeah, I mean, I think the learning here is just take your time with the decision, right? And you might think you see what you see, but let the players give you a little bit of a hint, and let them either confirm or you know, deny your decision, right? If, oh, I have penalty and nobody's reacted, well, okay, maybe I'm a little off the reservation here. Maybe I should just let this play out. So I think the learning here is just take your time and don't be in a rush.
Sure.
Speaking of big decisions in overtime, let's move on to a game between Navy and Pitt. We got 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go in the first overtime, and a defender here clearly takes down the Pitt attacker. Ted, go for it.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, excellent decision on the penalty. I think it's very, very clear for the referee. I believe the referee is Moo Hackett. Moo and I worked together back in the WPS, so it's good to see her still on the field. The defender tries to make the challenge for the ball, never gets to the ball, definitely takes down the attacker. The only thing I would add here, Chris, is that the assistant referee was really sure of herself, in that the flag went up, right, and gave the wiggle or the waggle, whatever you want to say, and that she was 100% sure in that decision. That'd be a little bit tough for me, knowing what that angle is, right? The challenge and the point of contact would be in front of right, through a player. It'd be on the other side of where she would be looking in from the touchline. So I'd be hard pressed to say that, you know, we're getting 100% of the information there to make the decision from where she is. If she has it, great, no problem. But I would reemphasize the fact that, especially from an assistant referee standpoint, we have to be 100% sure, especially stuff here that results in a penalty.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, you know, my previous comment, right, where patience is a virtue, right? So as an AR, while you might be 110% sure, with Moo being on the right side of the D, right side of the arc there, let's give her first crack. And if she doesn't give it, and obviously it's a key match incident, and you'll bet your house on it that it's a penalty, then at that time, you know, then that's probably the best time to raise your flag. But let's give the referee first crack, especially when she's in the perfect position to be able to see the contact, right?
Yeah, you're right there on the perfect position for the referee.
All right, and then last one, let's end on a good one. A good friend of ours from the great state of Louisiana, Tyler Mitchum.
Tyler Mitchum refereeing in Toyota Stadium in Dallas.
Looks like it.
Yeah, more lines in the field there. Chris, can you remind us how much time is left on the clock here?
This penalty was given at 89:57. So, you know, for those of us who went to public school, 90 minus 89:57 is 3 seconds. Tyler gives this penalty with 3 seconds to go in regulation. I'll play it for you one more time. Obviously a huge decision, right? It's a 1-0 game. Tyler's got great movement, comes in, sees the defender pretty much just bulldoze the girl before she's able to get a shot, you know, because the ball's going right to her, right? She's got a great opportunity to get to the ball, to put a shot on frame at the last dying seconds of the game. And the defender just pretty much mows her over. And Tyler has the courage to give the decision, and great movement before the penalty, great movement after the penalty. And then the extra tidbit here is this team converts the penalty and then ends up winning in overtime. Ted, anything to add?
Yeah, you know, I listened to the audio of this clip when you sent it over, and you know, it's boos raining down. Like, it's disbelief that how in the world can a referee make a decision at this point in the match. But you know, every positive thing that you said, Chris, needs to be re-emphasized. This is excellent. This is Tyler refereeing the incident, refereeing the moment. This is not, oh, it may be close to the end of the game. I can't give this. God forbid I give this. This is him recognizing a foul has occurred. It's in the penalty area, and the only right answer is the penalty kick. So, tip of the cap to him. This is fantastic stuff.
Yeah, kudos, right? No hesitation. Fantastic movement all the way to the spot. Signals over to the benches because, I spoke with Tyler this morning, and there was no working clock at this venue. They had switched the venue a couple hours before the game. There's no stadium clock here, so Tyler's keeping the time on the field. Signals over to the benches. There's 3 seconds left, which, as I'm sure, Ted, because you and I have refereed hundreds of collegiate soccer games, I'm sure everybody was tickled, especially the coach who just had this penalty called against him, that Tyler's telling him that there's 3 seconds left, right?
Yeah, it's funny, Chris, because looking at this field, I'm waiting to see in the background, like the 10-year-old kid that's on the Little League scoreboard with aluminum number signs,
Right.
changing that stuff out as the clock ticks. I mean, that's what this reminds me of.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our 5 instructional videos for tonight. Obviously, all dealing with officiating under pressure. We've answered a lot of questions tonight. We've talked about a lot of the things that revolve around officiating under pressure. We've looked at these videos, all big decisions in key moments of the game, last 5 minutes of the game. The message here is, have the courage, right? Have the courage to give those big decisions. Don't be afraid. Don't swallow the whistle. When you know, when you're sure, you're sure. One last question for you, Ted, and it's kind of wraps everything up.
Sure.
Let me make sure I word this the right way. As someone who's been selected, you and I have both worked a lot of college cups, right?
Yeah.
And then Tori's here with us, and she's been to a couple of college cups, and she refereed the most recent women's national championship out in San Jose last year with Stanford and UNC in front of 10,000 plus people, because it was pretty much a home game for Stanford.
Yeah.
What is your advice to the officials that are seeking to get to the level that you and I and Tori have been able to make it to?
Man, in college, yeah. So it's tough because, we look at this landscape and there's different people assigning us different games in the collegiate game. And you have to realize as a referee that and I don't want to speak for you because now you are an assigner, but I've always looked at it like this, that from an assigner standpoint, like you are working for them on that given night, but they live in that environment at all times. If they're assigning the ACC or the SEC or the American, like that's their responsibility, and their job, and how they probably got there, was to say, you know what, I'm going to give you the best that I can find. I'm going to assign the best officials that I have onto your games. And you as an official have to realize that going in. That's got to be your mentality. And I get it. In the college game, we put on 30 and 35, and sometimes we work 3 nights in a row and 4 nights in a row. And it's very easy for us to get caught up in the travel, arrive, knock out a game, and just do it all over again. And all we're doing is signing box scores. That's all we're doing.
The grind.
But it's not right. It's the grind, but it's not that, right? There's students that are playing that may only have, that have made red shirts or injured, and this is their only season, or this game is a rivalry from whenever, or whatever you want to say. There's 9 million reasons why that game matters that night.
Yeah.
And it has to matter to you. And when that matters to you, then you'll perform at your best. And when you perform at your best, that assigner would be like, you know what? They're one of my best. I'm going to recommend them to the NCAA. And then the NCAA, they do their pickings. And you get all of a sudden your playoff games, and, you knock that stuff out. And NCAA's like, you do good for me too. And then we get you to a college cup. So every match you have matters, and treat it as such.
Every game matters. That's good. That's great advice. And I lied because there are more questions in the chat, and we've got 6 minutes left.
I got 6 minutes to give you.
Perfect. Let's get started with Ted. What kind of tea is in your glass?
This is not tea. This is Austin Hope from Paso Robles. That's a 2018. I usually don't let wine age much. It's usually you buy it and then you open it
Yeah,
and you drink it. But the Austin Hope collection is good. If you like the Camus collection, I would go that route as well.
Oh, excellent. Next question. How do you bounce back from those moments when you get those big decisions wrong or you want them back? And how do you regain that confidence?
Oh, it's easy. You gotta listen, make your learning period 24 hours or whatever that is, but it better be before your next game or before you prepare for your next game. So you have a match on Saturday and you want to think about it and go over it and kind of mull it over. You maybe even feel bad a little bit about it on Sunday. Cool. But by Monday, let's turn it around and start thinking about the next one. Find a period. It's listen, we're humans and we have emotions and we should, embrace those. But put a time limit on it and then move on.
Yep. No, I agree. I'm with you. I tell people, figure out why it went wrong.
Yeah.
Figure out how you can make sure it doesn't go wrong again, and then move on from it.
Sure.
Right? Because that's all you can do.
All
Do you hear and react to the crowd, especially in big stadiums?
No, and can I add one more thing to the lesson? One decision doesn't make you a bad referee. So just remind yourself on that. Man, you may have gotten that wrong. It may have been big. It may have been high profile. It doesn't mean all of a sudden the 300 games or 500 games that you've done, now you're a bad referee. So there's on that. What was the question on the crowd?
Do you hear and react to things said in big stadiums?
No, but I love big stadiums. The more people, the better I referee. The less people, AKA Chivas back in whenever year that was.
Yes.
And you're right. And you're going to Home Depot on like a Wednesday night in LA. And oh man, and there's like 300 people in the stands.
Oh, on a good night.
No. One guy's blowing a vuvuzela and yeah, no, like those games are terrible. Or go to referee in RFK. Remember that?
Yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
Like RFK. Go ahead.
Last
Sorry.
one. We're going to wrap up with this one because it's a good one. Plus, I have a good answer for it.
Okay.
Have you heard anything in the stadium from a fan that made you laugh?
Yes. Shoot. It's been a bit of a while. You have an answer for it, so go ahead and answer.
All right. So, and this is a college answer, actually.
Okay. All right.
Many years ago, I'm doing a game at Elon.
Yeah, I know Elon.
Believe it or not, I was carrying a flag.
Wow.
I was carrying a flag at Elon, and a student, the student section was behind me, and somebody yells, "You have amazing calves." I lost.
Like that's great stuff.
I lost. How do you not react to that? Right?
Yeah, I know. And listen, and you almost want to challenge people to be creative like that, because I'll eat that stuff up. Like the one thing I love the most in our MLS season, and I know I'm going on a little tangent here, is when you go to Portland and you're warming up, and when you get down to the corner where the supporter section is, and they started the hashtag Ask a Ref, and it's just they just ask you a question, and it's the most random thing. And I remember I was there like, hey, are you okay with Maroon 5 like playing halftime of the Super Bowl? And I'm like, no, I'm absolutely not. I'm not. But if you get creative, like that's the best part. Like you start yelling, you suck and you're the worst and we hate whatever. That's it. Whatever. Be creative. Be creative.
Be creative. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Ted. I think that was a fantastic 90 minutes. I'm not sure about you.
Yes, I enjoyed that.
But we covered a lot. Just a few closing remarks. Ted, anything from you before I wrap it up?
No, Chris, like I'll just reemphasize. I think what you're doing here is awesome. These guys, these people. I hope they tune into the next 6 weeks. It's not going to be about soccer refereeing, and I think the more that we broaden our conversations and the more we relax our conversations, the better I think we are going to come. So you're going to learn a little bit from an umpire. You're going to learn a little bit from an NHL official or NBA official or whatever, right across the whole spectrum. And you can use that. I mean, please try to use that stuff. We try to talk to these people in the airports or when we cross paths or when Lauren Holtkamp lives in Tampa. These are great great things. Or when Gord Dwyer invited us down to Dallas in the locker room, and we're just there just shooting shit after the game, and they have the same logistical problems that we have. They complain about the same stuff, and the same challenges that we have. So please, take that in there. And once again, I can't say thank you enough to you and Tori and the rest of the NISOA team. You guys are doing amazing stuff. And it wasn't that long ago where people were saying, what kind of value does NISOA give? And now it's like, what gives more value than NISOA?
Right.
And what's putting out more value than NISOA? So
find me something that compares, right? Between the spring educational stimulus quizzes, in the summer series, and now obviously the fall we have Fireside Chats, and hopefully everybody is a fan of week 1. I'm not sure how you don't learn anything from a guy wearing a velvet sport coat and a guy wearing a shirt that apparently doesn't have any buttons.
Yeah, I know. I unbuttoned a little bit. Hey, real quick shout out to Corey Rockwell. I know I mentioned a lot of names tonight, but that guy was using an electronic whistle doing a power squat on a set piece outside the penalty area in, I think, Arkansas over the weekend. And once again, when you don't think anybody's watching, I'm watching, and that screenshot ended up in his WhatsApp box. But I love that guy. Love that guy. So
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Ted. It was absolutely a pleasure. I'll probably see you tomorrow morning before we get tips shoved up our nose.
That's right.
I'll wrap it up with a thank you, obviously, to you. A thank you to the NISOA Foundation Fund for their trust and approval of this series. They're obviously a big advocate of all the instruction that we're able to distribute here at NISOA. And then obviously for all of our guests, thank you for joining. Later this week, please look for the communication from NISOA where we announce our guests for week 2. I can assure you I will not disappoint, nor will I disappoint in the remaining 5 weeks after that. We've got some great talent that I'm looking to secure, and we'll have some fantastic educational opportunities. So with that being said, hashtag what's in your cup, hashtag Velvet Touch. I'm signing off for tonight. Everybody have a great night. Thanks for joining. Good night.
Good night all. Good night.